The Ups and Downs of Raw podcast with Kiko and Skye. We are raw vegans. We are here to talk about embracing trauma. Hey, Kiko, how are you?
Hi, Skye. It's great to see you again. And hello, everyone.
It's great to see you. I've had great feedback about this podcast, just about how it's really helping people to talk about the reality of raw foods and everything isn't always smooth sailing. And this is what this podcast is about. We are going to talk about the nitty gritty. This is episode 3. We've spoken about the cost of it. We've spoken about other ups and downs that go on with it. But this week, we're going to speak about trauma, depression, anxiety, panic, PTSD, I guess mental health, and how we manage that, not just with foods. So do you want to start with this, Kiko, about where it plays, what role it's still having panic or stress, or everyone I think has stress. So do you want to start?
Yeah. Tessa, so hi. Hi, Skye. Well, when we come out to social media, and of course, we want to share something positive, and this diet is a huge part of us feeling so good and light and be able to connect to ourselves. But people, when they see us on social media, they tend to think that this is the only thing that we are going through. And of course, it's not true. There are things that we are going through, but how do I approach this? There are so many ways to approach it. On speaking of embracing trauma, and the reason why I stay raw vegan is because I know, besides from going into nature, doing exercise, for me, the most important thing is being mindful of what we put in ourselves. Like recently, I'm going through something heavy, uh, which I would like to share one day. But the best thing I can do is pay attention to what I put into my body. And I shared recently with in my Instagram that usually, like, I don't care, let me just eat the bag of potato chips. It's still vegan, and it'll be just okay. And I'm just gonna numb myself eating something heavy. And after that, I feel so bad about my action. And, not only I feel so bad internally, I start blaming myself. Like, why did I have to do that? So going through over and over of this cycle of feeling bad about what I put in my mouth, first thing I want to do is, vibrant, colorful fruits and vegetable, so that I can go through these challenges that I have right now.
Mm. So I think what you said is so true, is everyone looks on social media, and social media, we do want to share all that is good because there is so many good things with raw foods. But I think a lot of people are mistaken that us as influencers, it's all good. And a huge thing is the trauma and the cycles we can get in with trauma. So I noticed as well when I healed, that bright and vibrant food started to make me feel bright and vibrant. I had a lot of post-traumatic stress. I'd had 9 psychiatric hospital visits, 5 were acute, one was 10 months. I'd been diagnosed with all sorts of different things, dissociation, like amnesia to do with trauma, complex PTSD, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, schizoid tendency. Every time they came in, they threw a different label at me, okay? And then the medication I knew made me worse. This is my situation and I begged, I was in an acute unit. I said, I'm in a safe space, just give me a break from all of this. Stop pumping me, injecting me. And thank God a woman did, because a lot of what I did out in the psychiatric unit is the same thing I do today, nature. So as soon as the sun would come up and they'd open, there was a funny little courtyard. You're locked in. It's literally jail. But there'd be little garden wrapped around the edge, and I'd get into the garden and put my feet in the garden. It's all I want to do is ground, and then you look crazy. But I didn't care. It's the only way to kind of ground. But anyway, when they took the medications back, a lot of the psychiatric issues went for me. The ones that stayed were me still dissociating because I really couldn't stay present with all the surgeries I'd been through, all the trauma I'd been through. It was really hard to stay present, and just mood. I'd also been diagnosed with a mood disorder, ADHD, all of it. But it regulates. So we forget when you are chronically inflamed, because the body keeps breaking, we forget that if you can give it some good food, and I'll get to that, and nature and a bit of movement and good sleep, is the body does correct itself. And that was starting to happen. I was having these mood outbursts, but that's also coming off a ton of drugs that they put me on. And what I was noticing, even in the hospital, is how much my dissociation, which I think had a lot to do with histamines at the time, because histamines can cause psychiatric. I don't think that happens straight away, but you get somebody so dried and so inflamed and so histamine full, the brain just is constantly reacting. Because I'd noticed, especially spices in these were all cooked foods, like chili soups and stuff. Or when I was a smoker, having a cigarette, next minute I'm dissociated. So I did notice there was something to do with the foods. As I was already vegan, I am vegan smoking. It doesn't mean that you're healthy. But once I discovered these raw foods, I noticed how much calmer my brain was. And when you can calm the brain, you can actually process things. So instead of me now having dissociations, if I was out in nature and I had been eating like high raw foods, I was able to sit in a space which was, for whatever was going on, was much better. So I'm not saying it was perfect. Of course it wasn't perfect. I've been through hell, but the ability my body had to hold stress, go through emotions, go through trauma. If I'd had, and at the start, especially that watery light foods of raw, like anything fresh. So when I'm talking like nuts or seeds, maybe supported me, but it was very fresh foods. But getting my feet in nature. So I think I've spoken about this, is where I'd have massive withdrawal shakes. Essentially, I was already sick. I was very depleted. They couldn't give me infusions because my liver was damaged. I was a smoker and a drinker and had eaten junk food. And the only thing which calmed my nervous system, because I couldn't take anything, I knew this was all making me sick, was hugging a tree. Or I'd pull a bit of the bark off, or fallen bark, and I'd come inside and I'd kind of rock and rub it. I'd bring nature. It was winter. I'd bring nature indoors. It was the only thing that really helped me stay centered. But once again, as you can hear, the journey is not perfect. It's not always rainbows and unicorns. But and another thing which helped me is there's like a fire pit down in the local park. I had this calling to grab the charcoal out. I used to have great success with a lot of my inflammation, gut issues with charcoal. I didn't eat it. I'd hold it in my pockets and rub it. So you look like a crazy person. Your pockets are full of leaves and charcoal, and you're bringing bark inside. But you can see, and it makes me think about how people who are dissociating or in their darkest hour do things to help them process. So I've kind of gone off your example, like with chips here, but I'm kind of wanting to say that if you are going through something, the more time, raw food's great, but for me, it's nature. If I can bathe my body, and I'm talking like even in winter, taking the shoes off. If you can't do that, hug a tree, get some nature indoors. It seems to have, it's almost like the electrical current of the universe we can tap into, which I couldn't feel until I was on raw foods. And that really helps me process. And I think we should acknowledge this as well, is it's okay to feel like crap and to have panic and to have these big emotions come up. But how are you going to process that? That's the step that I want people to embrace on their journey. Is it can look ugly, but where do you go? I'm not a journaler because I feel like writing it down. I'll go back and read it, but that's me. I'm an energy shifter. I get in the ocean. I hug a tree. I get my plants. I make sure that food that day is very high raw. Yeah, so that's kind of how it doesn't mean I don't go through things. Like I'm only just getting my memory back. So yeah, how do you process things, Kiko? Because you, I
Yeah.
know, have a lot going on and you've been through a lot.
Yeah, I just want to say hello to Apple, who said hello to us. Thank you, Skye. I love how you explain, and you're so real. You have gone through these dark hours, and I cannot even, imagine you being a smoker and heavy drinker, addicted to caffeine and all that. It's just, you're like a completely different person. And I really appreciate that you share all that. And, sometimes to see the light, we have to see the darkness to truly appreciate the light. And, last night I had a very hard time. It was a family thing. And it was a feeling that I haven't felt in a long time. Like I just couldn't control my feeling, and I was just so frustrated, and I didn't know what to do. I'm dealing with my emotion much better, and everyone has to find what works for them. For me, everything, the exercise, going into nature, being surrounded by people who loves you and who cares about you, and like all of it, it's so important. But when we are feeling or going through this, it's very intense trauma or stress, you tend to forget all these things that you could do. For me, food is the most important thing. And I remember, back like over 20 years ago, you know the impact that food had. Like, I didn't exercise in the beginning, and I felt an amazing benefit right off the raw vegan diet. Just eliminating those toxic food or like highly processed food, and just concentrating on this very juicy fruit and vegetable. And I was just so impressed, like what a difference it makes. And once I feel that energy shift, then I have energy to step outside and be close to nature, or walk. But if I didn't have that little shift, I wouldn't have been able to, the, the tendency is, okay, let me just crawl up and, I don't know, watch this series, like a dark series that
Mm.
I can resonate, and I just feel, this, I just go into this rabbit holes of dark hours. But so there's no magic pill, I feel. I mean, if there was a magic pill for me, it would be raw vegan, even though this is just a tiny bit of my, whole life. It just helps for me to go to next level, to for me to go maybe out, have energy to go outside and walk.
Mm. That's so true. Is I feel like that raw food can be that foundation while you go through this. Also, if people have issues with being overwhelmed by their emotions and they are in panic, I have actually, I think because I've been through so much, there's some things that I have done which can help calm the nervous system. And also, when I've been in psych units, nothing is calming these people, including drugs. But I always would do this, even with high blood pressure or when you're having like POT symptoms or heart palpitations, is get a wet cloth. Run it under water. It will be cold enough. You can get ice, but a wet cloth. I do this with my mum. She has Lyme's as well, and that nervous system gets overstimulated. You have a massive amount of blood flow, including the vagus nerve on the back of the neck. And blood is going to the head, and it's also going to the parasympathetic nervous system. It's just like on alert. You want to calm that. And by cooling the system, I mean, you could jump in an ice bath, but the best thing to do is grab a cloth and put it on the back of your neck and just breathe and watch the nervous system calm down. If it's really too much for you, or you want to up this even more, is put the cold towels on your wrists as well and on the back of your neck. Now, this isn't it's all, so because this will calm the nervous system, it can help a lot of people not feel so panicked, because we can go into panic just by thinking of panic, and then a panic attack occurs. And if you can break that cycle without drugs, or believe in something, or know you have something, it can help a lot. It can lower that panic response. So that's a good thing to do. This will not fix your problem. We're just talking about calming an overstimulated nervous system. So I know for a fact if I get out and ground, it can really help. But some people can be so worked up and they're going through so much and they don't know what to do. And even when you sometimes get someone to go in a cold shower, they can feel even more shocked. So this is a good way to just hit all that blood that's flooding your body, flooding all these organs, everything's vasodilating, and you're in this stress response. To be honest, that level of panic has not ever affected me since going raw. Different waves of emotions have definitely come. And my best response when these come up, because I can't drink, I can't have coffee. I mean, I tried it and it didn't work for me. I can't have Valium, So what do? And I actually go back to the things that helped me the most when I was first raw, these lessons that I taught myself. And that is, and there's all of them to me add up to help me. And that is nature, a cup of tea. Usually I'll have a shower and I'll actually soothe myself with a lot of the times. And probably because I did this when I got myself well, is I'll completely wet my hair. It's very grounding for me. Get everything off, put on my favorite pajamas or my favorite tracksuit. And I do like my favorite raw dish at that time. And if I'm not hungry, it will just be the tea, but usually I'll even be thinking about it. And I created this like self-soothing mechanism when I healed myself. Like I knew what I was doing was remarkable, as in like the difference in me mentally, socially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, when I went raw was so off the charts that I was aware that it was so special and it had to be shared, but also I had to hold on to it. And another thing that I did, and this may help many people who are dealing with addiction or with stress levels, is I would get a vaporizer, because most of my panic could be dealt with by either drinking, medication, smoking, or food. So you take all of that away very quickly. And I was already so sick and broken. How does a person cope? And especially that first few weeks, like I knew it would get better, but you're just in a really bad place. Is I get a diffuser that lets off scents. And I always had this connection to peppermint for me. It could be whatever works for you, but for me, peppermint is pain relieving, and I use it for pain relief, even when I got off all those painkillers. And I'll tell you about that later. But I'd fill this vaporizer, and I would sit right next to it, so it's pumping out. And so this is like I'm not knowing how to cope, and I would breathe it in. I just breathe it in, almost like I vaped too. So it's almost like a more natural type vape type thing going on. And that really helped me. I didn't do it for much longer. I also felt salt. I held on to salt crystals a lot and had a salt lamp. And I would actually, I've spoken about this before, is when I first would get myself in the ocean again, I would keep the salt on me until right before I went to bed, because I found that helped me as well. But anyone who's going through that addiction and needs something, they find they need something especially physical to do, is, I would say get the wet cloth, put it on either the back of the neck or the wrist, and get a vaporizer or something physical and that you have control over, because you feel like you've lost control, right? When you're going through trauma, it's not like you've got a sore leg and as it like calms down, or that your body floods you with noradrenaline, and you start to like eventually come down right off that. And it's not the same. You're trying to grasp control when you're either panicked or you just can't process the emotion. So I would say get a vaporizer, something like you can breathe in and get that. Yeah.
I love it. I love, there's little things that we, those are so important, because that smallest, the tiniest thing could just shift to something else, and change a little bit the perspective of what we are going through. And Jennifer said, yeah, "Hi Jennifer, I love the topic. Trauma isn't normally looked at something one would embrace. Trauma makes me want to rebel." And it's true, just as Skye said, it's okay. This is part of our life. We need to embrace. It's not like um, we all want to be control of our life and have a happy time all the time, but actually we don't learn. And I almost want to say that it's kind of boring if we don't have ups and downs. And ups and downs is what makes our life more interesting, what makes this person more interesting. I'm not welcoming the challenges or obstacle in my life, but it's part of our life. And it's when it happens, how do we embrace it? It's okay. We feel upset, we cry, and we adjust our life with those obstacles that we have in our life. And going back to the essential oils that you talked about, it's a huge part of my life as well. And I've once I saw this research on people who has dementia and Alzheimer, and they did this extensive research for I don't know if I think it was like 6 7 years. So they use the essential oil. They have a blend for morning at night. Morning blend is lemon and rosemary. So 2 drops of rosemary to 1 drop of lemon. So you make a mix of 2 to 1 rosemary and lemon, and it goes very deep to your deep deep inside of your brain, and somehow it helps to really wake us up in the morning. Rosemary, I think, what Skye, I think you talk about rosemary. You love picking up the rosemary in the morning, and it just kind of wakes you up in the morning, right? It has
I
a
do. I do. I think it's the hippocampus. It
Mhm.
actually activates like that memory storage, your ability to store new memories.
Yeah.
And plus you breathe it in, right? So it's going
Mm.
straight into your head.
Yeah.
So I think that's incredible. And I think what I can recommend to help people through these times is don't just pick one of these. Find a ritual of many of them. And even in the time, if you think none of this will help, you'd be surprised how much resetting yourself when you go through something can help. As in, you have the shower, you wet your hair, you put the towel in the back of your neck, you have the tea, you're thinking of that yummy raw meal, you've got the oils. It's maybe not one of them, but and if you do it enough, you can create a safe space so that you're just not so over panicked as you go through it. But you're right, is who we are and what we learn is totally dependent on stress. So we don't learn unless we're stressed. If we're not stressed, we die. We need stress and stimulation to even breathe and function. So it's just acknowledging when it gets too much and finding a way to calm it so you can go through it, but also acknowledging the power in it. Like people can get university degrees and still not get up and publicly speak. They don't want to do that. Nothing has pushed them. Get someone who's gone through trauma, and next minute they're doing podcasts and wanting to share and creating things. And that came from stress. And
Mm.
when you acknowledge that, and it's really hard to acknowledge when you're going through it, it's more like that negative talk. It's like, I hate this. I hate going down the path of those words. In fact, I am so well trained at positive thinking. I will have my head in the toilet being sick. This is a bit graphic. And I will go, thank God I haven't eaten anything but raw because this isn't acidic. I'm so positive minded. Even like there's times where I'm like I've been near death, and I remember being on the floor and thanking God for the floor being cold and straight so I could stay conscious. Like I am just someone who, no matter what I'm going through, I'm like, lucky I've got this, but I've got this. And I think that can really help as well. But I do know, especially when I was in chronic pain, what the level I would go to get out of feeling that physical pain back then. But also now I understand that it's not just one thing. Back then it's like there is always something that you can give someone enough painkillers and they don't feel anything, right? But if I am eating well every day, movement every day, talking to good people, making good choices every day, is it adds up. Like life is like a culmination of not just one thing. It doesn't define you. It's all the things you chip away at. And it's really interesting because I think when people see my Instagram or they see me like together, everyone's looking for how did she get to do that? And yes, you could say it's the raw food, but it's a combination of my traumas, of raw food, of that I get up and exercise, and I'm, I don't have that on camera. You don't see me like breathing it out. That's just me. And that's another thing, is when you become your greatest hero, and I talk about this a lot, is you'll realize you've got your back. Like, you're the legend. Only you know what you've gone through. And if you're past the age of 20, 25, or even past the age of 10 these days, is you've been through it. So, you are your own hero. I'm inspired by all of you, because if I listen, this is why I do this podcast, because if I listen to anyone's journey, it's like I'm like, oh my God, how did you get through that? And then I'm like, how did I get through it? And we get through it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do want to mention back to the essential oil thing, that because sleep is so important, and this helped me a lot when I was living in France. I had a hard time having a good sleep, and I never really had, I'm the kind of person who can sleep anywhere, and when I moved to France, it was a challenge. And when I saw this research of helping people with dementia and Alzheimer, they were very successful with this blend. So, you can make a note. It's very simple. It's very cheap. Again, the morning blend, apparently for first 2 to 3 hours when you wake up, 2 parts of rosemary and 1 part of lemon essential oil, and then you blend it. And before going to sleep, 2 3 hours before going to sleep, lavender and sweet orange. So 2 parts of lavender and 1 part of sweet orange. So I used to do this like a ritual especially when I was living in France. I had a diffuser, and I make a mix, and I will just do this before going to sleep, and that helped tremendously my sleep quality, as well as my husband. My husband slept really well, but he noticed that it was much better with it. And I've gifted this blend of essential oil to so many people in France. I mean, because I had many, like 8 people who were over 70, 75 years old, and they had some issues sleeping, like a deep sleep. And everyone thanked me so much. And they were like, Kiko, how do you do this? This is just so simple. It smells so good. And I remember I sent a few bottles to this lady I was close to in Japan. And she said her husband, who had to have a medicine to go to sleep, after she introduced my mix, he didn't have to have that sleep pill.
Oh.
Yeah. So, anyone who's having had some issues having a very, quality of sleep, I think anyone can benefit from it. And it smells really good, and it's cheap. So.
Yeah. You're just reminding me a little off topic here, but I would sleep with my diffuser on as well, with the peppermint oil when I was healing, until one night it set the fire alarm off. And this is my first time living alone, right? And I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. The whole place, it wasn't smoke, but I don't know what had happened. Maybe it had burnt in and a bit of smoke had come out. Anyway, I rung the firehouse, and I'm like, don't send a fire brigade. And they're like, oh no, we won't, we don't even know that's for you. And I'm like, I don't know how to turn it off. Next minute, my neighbor, remember, this is my first time living alone by myself, bursts in his underwear. He obviously sleeps in his underwear, climbs up a chair and pulls it off. It was just like, I was like, is this life? Is this what happens in life? You got your neighbors coming in their underwear, pulling down. So here's your lesson. Be careful. You could get some giggles from it. But yeah,
Oh my God, that's so funny.
funny. And it was really funny because he was obviously like half asleep, and it wasn't like he just came in, did it, and just left. Like, it wasn't like even like we reminisced over it. He just came in, took it. I'm like, is this what neighbors do?
So your door was open.
No, oh, maybe he knocked, or maybe I had it open to look outside if the fire brigade was and the fire brigade would just come, and I'm like, don't come. And the next minute he's come in, got some ladder. He bought it, came over with a ladder. He must have known. He's like, he must have seen my blonde hair and thought, she needs some help. If it's her fire alarm, someone needs some help.
That's
Anyway,
funny.
yeah.
There's another way to inhale this essential oil. In this, the research that I saw on YouTube is that they work with people who have dementia, and it's amazing. It was within 2-3 years of this research, all of them improved, if not
Wow.
completely removed the dementia. That was just really
Incredible.
amazing. Yeah, and what they
That's
did was actually a diffuser. They had a pendant, and they put
Oh,
the mix, and maybe they can smell. It doesn't diffuse to the whole house, but they would just wear it in the morning and before going to sleep.
that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. So with the peppermint oil, literally I got rid of everything when I healed. It was coconut oil and like a rosemary apple cider vinegar shampoo, bicarb to wash the clothes in. And if I got myself into pain, which I was in pain at the start, what I do is I noticed the peppermint oil has a stimulating effect on the skin. So if you put it on, there's like a distraction and a stimulation. So I got a lot of trigeminal nerve pain, and I got some stomach pains, and I would just have this calling to put the peppermint oil on points on my body where there's pulse, where you've got like blood pumping, and it's going to kind of warm up. And then like where you put perfume, I guess, but also points on my face as well. But then where the pain was, I would put a little bit. And I believe it because of the mentholy effect of it, that stimulating effect on the surface of the skin. When you're eating raw foods, all these things are so strong. Like, it's not the same as when you're very clogged up and you're having a lot of like heavy industrial type medications. This is when you're eating raw and doing nature. This was really strong. And I'd put the peppermint oil, or if it was my knee, and it really helped me. Really helped me. It also does help with if you are in that panic mode. It was another thing I did is I would just smell the peppermint. I'd smell the peppermint, put the cloth on. Then I'd make sure I have a shower, have a good meal, get out in nature or pull some nature in. And all these things would, for me, add up. Now, they're not the same as when you like drug yourself to take the like process away or the trauma away. It just helps you calm to process. It's
Yeah, you need.
okay to cry, right? It's okay to cry. If you need to
Yeah,
cry, let it out.
let it go. Yeah, let it out. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely. Yeah, you need to find for essential oil, you need to find the type of aroma that works for you. I
totally.
love peppermint, and before going raw, like I was suffering with IBS, like a very severe one. I used to have like a regurgitating. It was burning quite often, and my stomach, I couldn't digest well. And then peppermint helped so much. Even
Yeah.
on some, if I eat lots of nuts, then I would have a hard time. Then, I would apply peppermint oil on my stomach, and it's amazing. That works well with cramp during my cycle.
Ah,
Yeah, and also applying in the back of my neck, that also is very soothing, especially during the summertime. I tend to apply it, but my husband doesn't like it, so you have to find the essential oil that works for you.
I believe that. To me, it's like once I went raw, I could see that all those plants, they have their own little consciousness, right? And it's like people, not everyone gets on. You got to find those essential oils and those plants that you connect with, that you and your vibration or your consciousness will essentially learn from. But that's another good one is when you are in a panic, is putting the essential oils like on your skin. Just even the action of doing that can break a cycle. Also, if you do hyperventilate and you don't have a bag, you can breathe into your hand to get carbon dioxide back into the system. But in truth, since going raw, I have not got been in a state like that. My nervous system has calmed enough. I like that, Aphides. Like, everyone needs their own plant allies. We do. And I've had clients who have had plants. I'm like, get a plant. If you can't have it outside, have it inside. And they don't want to eat it because they've become so connected to it. So we can like really connect with nature. Like, don't discredit that power. I feel like we as a society have become so disconnected. We just the power, like, it healed me. Like, think about, like, close to $1 million would have been spent. All these experts are just bandaging it, and then I'm like just barefoot out in nature with some fruit and veg, and I'm like, I'm healing. There is like a true power, and like the earth, the power of the earth, and also we can get quite inflamed from all these alternate currents we're around that create a lot of the electrons in the body like static, and create an overflow of protons, which essentially become free radicals in the body. That's not all that creates free radicals, but this can occur. And what can help with free radicals that are already in your body and is the electrons of the earth, and stabilizing the body with that direct flow, direct current. You want all those organs in your body set with their own cycles and currents to help you process what you go through every day. So, it's,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, there's so many things that we can just little thing. And again, there's not just one thing that that works with everything. We all have to find what works for us. Yeah.
I was going to talk about my memory as well, just about how when I dissociated and okay, first off, when I was in chronic pain and had a lot of disease, is the only thoughts I had were waking up, making sure I'd taken my medication. Then usually I was distracted by a computer screen until pain came up. And it was a constant pain regulation. That was my entire life from the age of 16 up until, well, I healed myself, is how do I regulate this pain? And when I got well in 2000, when I dissociated and I was getting well, I couldn't process the world. Well, I'd lost a lot of my memory when I dissociated. Some days I couldn't even say my name. And like, I do find it really hard to talk about because I can tell my brain is struggling to face that part of my life. But what was so clear is, if somebody's so used to processing the world that way, I wasn't used to being around things and they giving you emotions and memory. You can call it post-traumatic stress, but it's probably normal for people to go down the beach and go, oh, I remember days like this when I was a kid, and have a happy memory. Is I had never had those since 16, because all I had was constant regulating of, and that was through things like surgeries or a lot of pain relief or hot water bottles or physios or injections that were numbing my back. Everything was like that. So to face a world where you basically feel, I still couldn't process. The only way that I started to get my memories back was, it wasn't even, I was able to calm and live. And I think not having a lot of my memories as I healed was such a bonus. So never discredit what your body's doing, because it's doing these things to protect you and give you, so you can live. But then after I finished juicing, not while I was juicing, but after I finished juicing, I started to notice that these big chunks of like memories from my past would come back, like with more so not just the memory, but there was a feeling now attached, and they were like, the more they came back, the more I remembered who I was. Like, it's like this identity a lot of our memory has in our life. This is, once again, like, bad things and good things create who we are. Without that, you're kind of like more of a blank slate. But as these came back, I could remember who I was. Now, this is a beautiful thing, but it's also a really hard thing to deal with, because it put me, and I feel like I'm coming out of it, or better at processing it now, but it can put me in a place of lack, because I missed my entire life. I feel like I learned. Okay, I've got to reframe it as I learned my entire life. But essentially, I did not do the normal growth and life stages of most people. I didn't go through that stage where you like you finish and you pick what you want to do, and then usually you have a lot of time to maybe travel or discover who you are in your 20s, and then you might meet somebody and settle down and make the choice to have kids or not have kids, and then even off the back of that, another life stage is you become a grandparent. And these life stages, it's not that I'm sad that I didn't have them, I didn't have a choice. I wasn't out, and I feel like that can make it, it's probably why I also lost my memory. But I can struggle also with time lapse. So I'll be watching things, and then all of a sudden I will realize that I used to watch this as a child and have this realization of all the time that's passed. Now, maybe other people have that, but in mine, it's just a blank slate. I can't really even remember the pain. And maybe that's a processing I've got to go through eventually. But most of it at the moment is just a time lapse thing where it's just a matter of accepting. And I am not at an accepting stage yet, apparently, but I'm definitely coming out of denial. But I think that the big thing here is a lot of people in trauma will have memory scatters, post-traumatic stress, memory loss, and your body does it for a reason. It's like I tried that fix everyone's trying, which is mature hops. You've probably seen a lot of the fruitarians trying this fix, and it's supposed to calm or kind of switch on the vagus nerve, which apparently gets suppressed. Oh my God, it switched on. It was like reliving things 10 times. But herbs do this to me. It's like they scratch nerves and everything lights up. And I can't. And that it's just interesting to remind myself that my body is very, if it's numb still, it's doing it to protect me. So
Yeah, thanks so much, Skye. Always, I love hearing all of these details and how you're dealing with it. And our body has a way to protect ourselves, and we forget like very painful time of our life. And like for me, last night I was going through like some childhood memory, like complication, and it could be very complicated and very, very heavy. And for the defense mechanism of our body and our mind, it's just they just try to protect you, and just it's not gone from our memory, but it's sort of covered. This trauma that you have gone through is somehow hidden for the time being that you need to go on with your life. It's we don't know if we need to really dig into our past life, because that could even complicate things. But because our topic today is embracing trauma, and it's so this topic resonates so much to Skye and I, because without us going through this very dark hours and of our life, we would not be where we are. Like over 20 years, when I was going through like really tough time, and I thought that I was being punished by God or whatever, and I was suffering so much, and why me? And then, but if I didn't go through that dark hours, I wouldn't have gone on raw vegan, which really enlightened my being. And because it works so miraculously, I am still on this path over 20 years later. But this dark hours and challenges is part of our life, and that what helped us kind of I feel like it's like the instrument, you just kind of push, and these are the stretching time of our life, and then you release, and we just we
I like
fly.
that. You
And
fly. It's just building pressure to let us launch.
yeah, exactly. And I was just sharing with my friend last night that this I've had a tough childhood, and that led me to go outside of Japan. As soon as I was 20, I was saving a lot of money so that I can be independent from my family. And thanks to this rotten family, if I could call it, it was really
family. I like it.
not rotten family.
Oh, you meant all of us. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there's some, yeah, anyway, I had a hard time, and I just, that experience that I went through, dark hours, is the one, that was the that was the reason I that led me to go to the States and live abroad for over 10 years. And I had an amazing time in the States. I had an amazing time living so many parts of the world. And if I didn't have that, I didn't have that energy to fly after.
I like that. It like launches us.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, so when you think of the brain and the neurons and the synapses and the connections, is you go into this stress and you're flooded with things like adrenaline and stress hormones, and that makes everything almost photographic at the time. So, you could say, "What did you have for dinner 7 nights ago?" And the person will go, "I don't know." What happened after, you ran in front of a car chasing a ball as a 4-year-old kid, and you can recite it still, right? So they light up for survival reasons. But what happens over time is you'll probably think about it a lot, especially off the back of trauma. Let's say chasing a ball across the road or a near-death experience or chronic pain, is they used to constantly light up these like maps, these neuron connections in your brain. They were like a schema for who you are. And we as humans we have different schemas we use daily, but there's like this identity. It creates part of our identity. And over time we evolve, right? But say we start to do things similar or something triggers a memory, is that it's like a Christmas tree. Like one little light bulb goes and the whole Christmas tree lights up again. And it never lights up as strong. Is over time these connections weaken and create new connections. And that's why I believe getting well in nature and actively is really great. But just know that it's not lighting up like it used to. And that's why I say is, as you process this and accept it, a lot of it is accepting it, because we put it in a place of like flight or fight, and then we go into denial. And a lot of it is accepting that you are you. It's lighting up. It's not still there. It's doing it as a protective mechanism, but also just using the tools that we spoke about, or any tools that help you to go through it. But I like that it's like, and I also, so when people come into our lives or situations, I take full ownership to everything that's happened like in my life. And that's a huge reason why I feel I can heal. I believe I signed up for this. I believe wholeheartedly, soul level, spiritual level, is before I came to this earth, I 100% knew what was going to happen in ways that even to this day I could never understand. In a consciousness, in a state of whatever is there, that I knew. And then my soul has like these contracts, or I believe we're all one in the same of source, but these different split realities of source I had signed up to connect with, to push my soul, to bend my soul, to grow my soul. Because I feel like most of my growth came from these lighting up of neurons from, chronic pain, my running in front of, chasing a ball in front of a car type thing. And I think that's really important, is if you keep thinking, this is a big thing. When I got well, everyone's like, all those doctors did to you, all those doctors did to you. All those doctors loved me, cared for me, did what they believed in their reality is right. None of them woke up each morning going, I need to take a knife to Skye and kill. They're literally thinking a lot, especially some of these professors, what can we do to get this girl to stop screaming? She literally lives in a huge amount of pain. What can we do with what we know? And I'm so grateful for the journey I went on. None of them wanted to hurt me. I signed up for these experiences. And the more you can sit in that space of gratitude, I promise, as I said, to this day, if I vomit, I'm grateful that it's not acidic food. Like, I don't see the negatives. But if you sit and dwell that someone did something to you, you will sit in victimhood, and you will loop, and you will pull in more of the same until your soul has learnt that lesson and able to accept and move on. So one of the greatest things I did was, when you accept that you always had control, I now have control. I can do whatever I like. It's always me. It is going to always be. I have the power to do everything. I had the power to break myself. I have the power to make myself. So my trauma has very strongly put me in that space. It's if not, it's put me in the greatest space of gratitude. If you've been in that much trauma and you enter the raw foods and all of a sudden nothing hurts. I remember standing in the shower one day going, oh, the water's not supposed to hurt my skin. Like I was like, all these things that I'm like, I'm so grateful. I don't have to feel like all these different levels of unfolding and knowing that the universe never was meant to hurt me. I just sit in this constant space um, of gratitude.
I love everything you said, and I'm so happy that you mentioned about taking responsibility of what you're going through, because that's a key.
Yeah.
And in a short vision, people think that blaming someone else is easier, but it's not. You know, take responsibility of what you're going through. You know, everyone is around us are doing the best they can. And I, just like you, I feel the moment that I took responsibility of what I'm going through is because I signed up for it, right? I I'm the person who is who's in charge of what I'm going through. And yeah, of course, there are certain things. So if you were to go back, would I do the same thing, or would I let someone else do certain thing to me? But I took I mean, I have to take a full responsibility to say that that was my decision. Someone suggested, and I took responsibility to do whatever I did. And that, taking responsibility is such a huge part of this journey.
It is. Otherwise, you literally giving parts of you away. I don't feel good because this person's not nice to me. And you say it to yourself every day. Whereas it's just like that person's usually probably going through something.
Mhm.
They're projecting, and you're then coming and feeling that, some of your pain is coming from them. Where it's okay to say, no, I don't want to be around those people. Also, I was just talking to someone, and what's really important is your value when you've worked on yourself. So if you are every day staying away from things that harm you, you are spending your time clearing your space, looking after yourself, putting good food in, doing exercise, and you go to meet up at a party. And a lot of those people, most days when you're having juices and walks, they're doing TV and coffee, totally different. So different vibrations. And you could go there and you start to not feel good. I'm not going to talk you into saying no. You've worked so hard on yourself. You don't have to be around anyone, including family, that bring you down. You are totally entitled to say, I've like my literal full-time job has got me to like get up and feel well. If something's going to make me feel, and it makes you feel physically sick, I will not sit in that space. And it may not be that someone is directly mean. It's just at this stage, it's too raw. Being around certain people, it just brings back a memory. It's okay to say right now I can't be there. And how easily over time you will say that when you've worked really hard on yourself, and as you elevate yourself, it's always changing. I also think when you are on that healing path, the strength that you get from that healing as well over time will shine in all areas of your life. As in, it just keeps adding up. All those, it's not like we in this society of the magic pill, right? That they're going to take a magic pill and we're going to wake up, we're going to be on Ozempic, or we're going to be skinny, or whatever it is. But the strength you get from having to face yourself and your past and clearing them and moving them, and then having to do the walk and having to make sure you have all the right things, it builds so much strength. Like like that aspect of it is why I can do most of what I do, because I've had to one of the things that kept me going when I first got well is, how did I not see that if I do what everybody else is doing, you get the exact same results? So all those like scientific studies of how, people get all these diseases at a certain age, and 1 in 3 people get this problem or that problem, is if you eat like they do, you work your butt off and be overstressed. If you do everything they do, that pattern that's called their life, you are in the same percentile of probability of getting that. But if you change that and notice that people get that less who eat better, and it may be you're in like a real crux of trauma, and You're just not aware of how to get out of it. It's start like as in it's I've tried everything, it's not my fault. At that level, do what you can. So wherever
Mm,
this, own where you're at. Don't think you have to be a perfect raw vegan and be walking and exercising. Own exactly where you're at. So if that means that you're just for now going to have no processed food and you're just going to eat a healthy, still having meat or whatever, that's where you're at. Own each step.
mm,
You can't go for a walk outside yet, but each day you're going to get up and walk around your house. Like
mm,
own where you're at because it will move you forward. Everything good you do moves you forward, all of it.
mm. Yeah, definitely. I wanted to touch base on like how being mindful of who you are with, and we have to be not we have to be gentle to ourselves and others as well. And you talk about we don't know what other people are doing. If someone is like nasty to us, and I before I used to be so judgmental, and I would say like, how could this person be certain ways? But we have no idea what they are going through, and it's better to just put our focus back to us. And it's okay, like what Skye said, that it's okay to say, okay, you know uh I accept whatever. We cannot know whatever everyone is going through. The only person we know is just ourselves. So, but it's important to have your own place. Be surrounded. If you don't have any friends that you can trust or feel safe, just continue reading a book that inspires you, or
Yeah.
listen to YouTube. That this kind of information is free. We are living in such a beautiful time of the life, that we have so much. Nature is free. Internet is practically free, and you have so much to be in control, um, and move
It's not.
yourself. Yeah.
It's like it's the way you see it, right? A lot of people can say, "Oh, this technology hurts us, it harms us, it's bad," but you've got to shift that, and you've got to
Mm,
say, "What is it that's good about it?" There's free knowledge. We get to do podcasts like this, connect. We've created an online family of raw people.
mm,
If you keep looking for the good, eventually the universe has to reflect good back. And
mm,
even when something that you used to be triggered by comes up, you'll see the good in it now. I think that's a valuable lesson is a lot of the things that used to come up and be like, oh, 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 attacking me now, I see good. And I think that's what
mm.
the raw foods does is it helps you see good where before there was dark. It's the light. You're eating packages of light. And yeah, I want you to see good.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to touch, mention again on what you talk about, how you, sort of lost your life because you were bedridden for most of your life, and there are so many ways to look at your life, but the reason Sky is so vibrant and so happy, and for something so simple, right? Being able to go to beach or being able to go to Pilates, and you broke your toe, and you couldn't be active those 3 weeks. So when you go back to your routine of being able to exercise, that's like another level of appreciation, right? If you haven't do that, you couldn't appreciate.
100%, you couldn't have said it better, is if you have lost everything beyond lost, like if you imagine what you think losing everything would feel like, take it a thousandfold back. And then all of a sudden, not only are you living what you thought was a dream life, but you're living this unbelievable life because everything feels so amazing when you eat a raw life. So
Mm,
it's like going from like beyond minus 1,000% up to like 2,000,000% when you're like, and everything just keeps feeling better. But once again, if we can look at this as the trauma comes up, I like to say, what is this teaching me? Everything that comes up. So a lot of people think that they go back to things and they think it's addiction. I don't call it addiction. I think my brain or different levels of myself are trying to communicate with me. So they keep giving me these, like the coffee thing, how I went back to coffee. A lot of people will beat themselves up. I never did. If I went back to it, I wasn't going to beat myself up over it. But I like to ask why. Biggest thing with me, why? And the coffee is stimulating and gives you adrenaline. And I always, when I exercised, would call my run my morning coffee. I loved the heart racing. I loved getting that buzz of oxygen, that like adrenaline feeling you get. I couldn't get that with a broken toe. I couldn't move. I was supposed to be resting. So my body starts sending messages that it remembers. And this is these schemas start lighting up. If you are laying in a bed, and I was at my parents' house and I was on opioids at the time for the pain, that whole scenario set off the old pain schema and wanted a stimulant in, which was coffee. And it did not serve me. It made me very, very sick. I almost called an ambulance because my digestive tract was so bad. But that was after I had it for 5 or 6 days in a row. But I don't punish myself or go, oh, that's an addiction coming up. I just go, my body was trying to tell me something. It wanted something. And I've learned that it loves that. Now, will I probably have to face this again? Maybe. Will I have coffee again? Maybe. But I don't sit in this space whereas like I'm good only if I don't have the coffee. I mean, there's worse things I could have done. Like from where I'm sitting, like much, much worse. So that's just something like I don't like to see it like bad me. I've gone back to old addictions. I'm like, what is my body telling me here? And it likes a bit of a burst in the morning. So I don't run as much at the moment. I'm trying to keep my, going through more like my feminine, I feel, energy stage where I'm not running away so much. I think I was running away from a lot of things. I think the coffee taught me that as well, that I need that adrenaline as well to kind of not process as much. Like if you're busy, you don't have to go through as much of your trauma. But I'm much better. That taught me having a broken foot, what I can sit through. But also a lot of when I sat through that break is I was very aware I was in the same situation. I was moved out to my parents' house because my bathroom was being done. I'm on similar medications, but I felt strong as. That was the difference, is all those little things I do daily had added up. So when I do fall, and I do notice when I've had something like COVID come up, the one thing that when these symptoms come on, I'm like mind blown as to how strong I am physically and emotionally. But like, because usually I'm used to being sick and very weak, very, very, very weak, like 37 kilograms weak. So you have to count all the amazing things you do and they all add up.
You cannot say enough about not beating yourself up of what we are going through. That I love that you said that why you had to go back to coffee, and I love that you didn't have to beat yourself up, because I think most of us do. So that message is so important. You need to keep on repeating that, Skye.
Yes, and that's why I share is if I need an iron infusion or I need something, or I just it's life. Like if you think that everyone gets on a raw diet, all the influencers, and you're just like, oh, they don't have no health problems, or that's not true. More than likely, the people that you think are more absolutely perfect in your mind probably have more. The ones that are sharing probably have less. It's about accepting. Like I'm not judging, but it's just we want to bring light to the reality of life.
Yeah, definitely. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's been lovely connecting the ups and downs of Rob. We'll be back next week. Message us, guys, if you have any topics you'd like us to shed some real truth on. And I can see Jen there. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. Christina. Yeah. Jennifer was there. Apple. Creative Art Tessa. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, it was lovely to connect with you, Skye, and thanks everyone for your message.
Yes, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.